Good morning. Welcome to the forecast discussion for March 6, 2013. We have a very impressive storm developing for the northern mid-Atlantic, but is it going to be mostly rain or mostly snow? Well, if you look at the temperatures right now, snow isn't exactly the precipitation of choice, I guess you could say. Take a look at these temperatures. They're driving into the upper 30s and lower 40s already. They'll move into the lower to mid 40s for this afternoon. That, of course, means rain, and you can see that warm air really invading all the way into central Pennsylvania, where temperatures are above freezing. Now, there have been reports of snow in Washington, D.C. and Northern Virginia. This area right here is where all the best dynamics are located, and so as a result, you're mixing down all that cold air at the mid-levels and thus the snow. However, the Philadelphia and New York City metropolitan area has very strong easterly winds ranging from 20 to 30 miles per hour in some cases, gusts over 40 miles per hour already, and this storm is just getting started. For me, the main impacts for this storm is going to be the strong winds and the coastal flooding threat. That is going to be a significant story moving forward here. How much snow? Well, let me explain to you why I'm not exactly all that let's say, aggressive with the snowfall forecast. First, let's take a look at the radar. You can see our precipitation developing nicely. It's trying to push further north, but notice that we're getting a really good focus of precipitation basically from West Virginia through Maryland, Northern Virginia, off towards the Delmarva and over southern New Jersey. The precipitation is having a very hard time pushing further north, and the reason why, well, let's take a look at the infrared satellite picture. Now look where this low pressure system is shifting towards. It's moving more towards the east-southeast than it is towards the east, and certainly not the northeast. And notice this upper level disturbance here dropping south. Now, the idea for a more northward track was that you're going to have a disturbance here, dive on the backside of this trough and pull this low pressure further north and west. Right now, the upper level low, and let me show you the water vapor here, is moving clearly more east-southeast. I mean, just watch it here. Just give it a second. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so it's moving towards the mid-Atlantic coast, and the low pressure development is clearly further south than all the model guidance has suggested, more towards central North Carolina rather than southern southeastern Virginia. So what we're looking at here is a storm track that is slightly further south, not significantly further south. We have strong easterly winds, and we have the best dynamics clearly focusing over Northern Virginia. Now I'm about to show you what's called the RAP model guidance. I'm going to point out a lot of interesting observations. And the reason why I'm using the RAP now is that this model takes all the surface and upper level conditions being observed now via the water vapor and other observations, throws that into the model and kind of plays it out to 18 hours. And it's a good model to use during this type of event, during this type of nowcasting event. So what do we have? We have this strong upper level low storm here, kind of blocking the advancement of this storm moving further north. And we're seeing a start of an interaction with these two low pressure systems. Now the idea here, moving forward, is that this trough remains separated from this, but you get more of a negatively tilted trough out here. That should shift the lifting further east. So when we look at the surface map first, this is of the radar depiction of this storm initially here. We're going to start first, here's the loop. It's starting now, moderate to heavy precipitation developing, but look where it shifts off the coast pretty quickly. It's moving due east. A very sharp cutoff over eastern Pennsylvania here, and also over the northern interior. Now, in order to get heavy precipitation moving further north, this low pressure system will have to jut more towards the northeast. Still possible, but there's other considerations to take here. The whole idea behind a heavy snowfall, let's say for Long Island, is that you get your best lifting and dynamics over Long Island and over southern New England. Now, southern New England, I'm not all that surprised about, but I think Long Island is going to be a little bit difficult. It's going to be a really close call. Here are the surface temperatures with this storm, and as you can see, if you're looking for snow, green is not a good color, and there's plenty of green throughout much of this storm event, and then we start to cool off as the storm starts to exit. So I do think we change over to snow. The problem is that it might not be fast enough, and the accumulation of that snow is going to be difficult with all this warm air already in place and a very warm ground with plenty of rainfall. Now here's my point with the lifting. This is 700 millibars, and I'm going to move this here. 1 second. Okay, so let's move this. Let's wait 1 second. Okay, here's a start. You can see all those strong lifting over Washington, D.C. It shifts off the New Jersey coast, and it remains south of Long Island throughout much of this evening. This is all the way through until 1 a.m. Okay, so what you would need is for this 700 millibar low to shift northward very quickly and force all this lifting to basically shift right over Long Island rather than lifting up into New England. And that's basically what I'm thinking with this forecast, is that the heaviest, the best lifting dynamics and the best cooling potential is going to bypass Philadelphia, New York, and Long Island, and much of Connecticut, and shift up from the southern mid-Atlantic towards the Atlantic Ocean and up towards New England as this low pressure system goes into a negative tilt and shifts more northeast. But the initial push to the southeast this morning is why the best lifting and dynamics stays off the coast, whereas yesterday you had the NAM model guidance and even to some extent the GFS model guidance having the best lifting right over New York City and Philadelphia, which is why people were increasing the snowfall totals. A reasonable forecast at the time, considering the potential for lifting. Now, why is this all important? Well, take a look at this. This is the skew-T chart, basically a chart of the atmosphere at roughly 1 a.m. over Long Island. And as you can see, the mid-levels are, well, more than cold enough. You have temperatures below freezing, but at the surface, they're near 5 degrees Celsius, which let's say is about the upper 30s, mid to upper 30s. What you're seeing here is that unless you get this cold air to mix down, this temperature is going to remain above freezing, and accumulation of snow is going to be difficult. If the lifting basically lifts over Long Island and focuses over Long Island, then you're going to get a burst of heavy snow. Now, the idea with the NAM model guidance here towards the end of the forecast period, we'll go out to about 30 hours here, which is basically early Thursday morning. Actually, let's go out to Thursday morning. Here we are. Okay. The idea here is that you get an inverted trough trying to develop here. Temperatures are still marginal, but they might just be cold enough to support accumulating snowfall. And that's the reason why we're seeing the higher snowfall potential over eastern Long Island from the National Weather Service. If this happens, it's a reasonable forecast. But it's going to be very much a hit or miss. This is either going to hit and you're going to get your burst of heavy snow tomorrow morning, or that inverted trough stays just far enough east and focuses more over New England, and basically Long Island misses out. So a very volatile forecast and something that's going to have to be watched hour by hour. So again, here is the forecast. I'm focusing the heaviest snow for this storm basically over south central Pennsylvania, and especially over Maryland and back towards northern Virginia. 4 to 8 inches. Most likely these snowfall totals are going to be more towards the lower end. And a lot of the snowfall totals here are going to be at the end of the storm as the cold air is pushing in. Now again, I'm going for 2 to 4 inches over the northern suburbs of New York City and Philadelphia. Over portions of Scranton and Wilkes-Barre, 1 to 2 inches if that. It's not good. It's going to be a miss for you guys. I'm sorry, it is. Over Philadelphia, this 6 inches. Basically, if the rain gives way to the snow earlier, then this is going to be possible. Otherwise, I think most locations are going to be around that 3-inch mark. And right along the coast, your primary threat here, I think, is going to be the storm surge and the winds from the east back into the northwest at 15 to 30 miles per hour, possibly 20 to 40 miles per hour, gusts well over 60 miles per hour. Over the coastal plain, you're going to be dealing with a potential storm surge up to 8 feet. Most locations 3 to 6. And again, mostly rain here. A trace to 3 inches, I think, is a good forecast here. Trace, mostly because you're going to have snow in the air, but is it going to be able to accumulate on the ground? That's a huge question mark here. So we're dealing with a lot of different dynamics here, a lot of things to keep an eye on. And of course, I'll have live coverage throughout the day to keep an eye on this storm. That is the latest forecast discussion from NYNJPA Weather. You can follow the latest weather information at nynjpaweather.com and NYNJPA Weather on Twitter and Facebook. Have a wonderful day, Stay safe out there.